Perfect. I'll go ahead and hand it over to you now, Wendy.
All right, fantastic. Thank you, Felicia. Well, hello, everyone. This is Thursday. Sometimes I forget what day it is because I'm busy in the week. But, and let me know, can you see my screen for the agenda?
We can see your screen.
Perfect. Well, tip number one, whenever you're sending a meeting or you're presenting a presentation in sales, always include an agenda because people like to know what they're going to be talking about. So as a introduction, my name is Wendy Hardin. I am the Vice President of Sales at Zenwork. I'll tell you a little bit more about Zenwork later, but essentially it is a software as a service company for tax compliance that helps, it's a business to business mechanism, but we also help digital customers as well, so individuals. But my team is focusing on selling B2B, helping companies file tax forms and remain in compliance with the IRS for forms like 1099 NECs, miscellaneous. And I'll tell you about some fun ones a little later. That's the W2G, which is in relation to casinos when you win money. So am residing in the Cincinnati, Ohio area. I have been in sales for over 20 years, software sales for over 15, and leadership, believe it or not, for over 10 now. So it's been a wonderful ride, and I'm looking forward to sharing a little bit about that with you today. I do have one daughter. I'm going to brag because I'm a proud Michigan State mama. I went to WGU. My daughter loves Michigan, and she wanted to go where her grandmother went to Michigan State. So she's graduating soon, and very excited about that. I get my money back, is what I like to say. I get to spend the money on me again. But college, great investment, and I'll talk a little bit about how WGU supported my success here in a few minutes. So first off, we're going to talk about my career journey. Why did I get into sales? And then how did WGU make that positive impact in my trajectory upwards, up the corporate ladder? Industry insights, how to achieve success as a sales individual, candidate screening, what I look for in a candidate and what many others look for in candidates today, and really how to separate yourself, how to stand out in the current marketplace. Because right now it is an employer market. I'm sure everybody's aware of, it's tough to get a job specifically in technology right now, but that doesn't mean that it can't be done. So I'll share a little bit of tips and tricks there. And then career opportunities. Zenwork is growing. We've grown about 30% year over year for the past several years. And one of the reasons why they brought me on in this past year is to grow the team. So I will have some upcoming opportunities that we'll discuss at Zenwork. All right. So I'm going to stop sharing my screen for a minute because who likes just PowerPoints, right? So how did I get started in sales? Well, goodness, I thought I wanted to be a doctor. My brother first thought he wanted to be a Ghostbuster, and then a trash man, and then a doctor. My brother ended up being a doctor, and my degree that I got from WGU was in biology education. Because I decided when I was looking, and because I have an older sibling who's also a doctor, and honestly, I'm not that serious. So I would love to help people. I just personally decided that what I wanted to do with biology was to help people. I was more interested in helping people, but not accidentally having to make those life or death decisions, right? That's a little bit of a bummer. So while I was going through school, I was working two jobs. One was at a retail location, and one was in a restaurant serving. And guess what? That is sales. That was my first introduction into business. And then I got a job at a jewelry location, and we bought and sold gold, which is what taught me a little bit or got me into negotiation. And then just also selling, right? That's another part of sales. One of my former leaders told me guess what, Wendy? Everything boils down to sales, because somebody is always trying to get something or exchange something. So while I was in getting my initial undergrad, I was exposed to this world of business, and I just fell in love with it. So after I got my regular degree in my undergrad at WGU, I went and took a break, I think, for a year, and then I went back to get my master's of business administration. And what I really love about sales and why I fell and just absolutely head over heels for it is because every day is different. It's challenging. And especially in technology, it's constantly evolving. So no day is the same. No conversation that I have is ever the same. And because it is in that technology realm, it's constantly evolving in terms of what we are capable of doing and how we are able to help customers. So I get my love of helping people and my love of challenge and change and evolution. And in particular, I've spent the majority of my career in what's called governance, risk, and compliance, which is any mechanism that aids in helping organizations comply with certain laws or regulations. So I won't go into it. I won't bore you to death with that. But those, as we know, the government is always changing. So if you were in environmental solutions, it would be, okay, what is the EPA coming out with? And of course, we get new leaders every day, and they influence those laws and regulations. So again, another component that is constantly evolving over time, making my life always fun because I'm a continuous learner as well. And that provides an endless amount of learning opportunities and growing opportunities for myself and my team. So now I kind of understand a little bit about how I got started in the field. And when I got my master's, I was working and I actually got a job as a SDR or a BDR. That stands for Sales Development Representative or Business Development Representative. And goodness, I started a long time ago when they gave you a phone book. And what a sales representative, an SDR, a BDR does is they're the very bottom of where you start out in sales. They just dial. They dial prospects all day, every day, dialing, emailing. And so I did that while I was getting my master's. I started on the bottom floor, and I just loved it again. So where the education came into play is really about tenacity. When you're dialing, and this is what sales is it is rejection. Every hour, not every hour, but every day, there is some kind of component of rejection that you have. And I have a quote from Winston Churchill, and success is the ability to go from failure to failure without losing your enthusiasm. And really, that's part of what the college experience, I think, brings to the table, especially WGU, right? We have to not only, many of you probably, like myself, have another job that you're working and going to school at the same time. You have children. You're juggling all of these components while attending WGU. So in terms of with that first experience of that first job, I had acquired certain skills already from the programs that I've gone through. And I would say a big component of that was confidence in public speaking. You, in sales, you immediately have to be confident in what you're saying. Whether you know something or not, you have to present confidence. You have to work with others. You work with other departments. You work with your colleagues and your team, and you learn how to build relationships. So I'll tell you a little bit of a story here. I was working on a group project with WGU, and it was building a company, and apologies, it's been many, many years now. but it was a situation where we had to build a company. We had to have a company name. And I think it was a mechanism of manufacturing in relation to building shoes or some goods and services. So there's numerous things that we had to account for. And we were doing really well. Okay, at least I thought we were doing really well. I worked with 2 other individuals. We got on regular calls and coordinated with each other's like schedules. And here's what I didn't know. We did well on the project. The real learning lesson came when I got the feedback, because at the end of the scenario, we did well on the project. We got a great grade. Kudos to us. Everyone worked together well, as I thought. But then there was the feedback where you had the opportunity to share what went well and what didn't go well with the group. What I learned was invaluable to my career, and it was pointing out a weakness that I had that I was not aware of. It was that I like to take control and that I was not as open to other people's feedback as I should be, right? They had a little bit more. I had a wonderful positive experience with them because they were very flexible, but what I didn't realize was I was being a little bit of a dictator. And not only in sales, in any job, you have to understand how to collaborate effectively. You have to take emotion out of it. You have to understand when to push your point and when to hold back. You have to also be willing not to be a control freak, like I can be sometimes. You have to give that space and that demeanor that gives people comfort to share ideas, because it is the best team and the best way to drive success. It's people. As I'll talk about a little bit later on some additional tips, but really working with others is a big component of success. And that was something that was really eye-opening to me that I learned from this simple project. And anything that you do, whether it's a presentation or working with others or developing a paper on a specific topic, anything that you do, you can relate back in a learning to future success in your career. It brings problem-solving skills, critical thinking skills. That's another thing that I think I learned really well from WGU, is that when you go to these lectures or you have a book to read, they challenge you to think, okay, here's a problem. How do you solve it? Based on the learning, based on the reading, based on the lecture, what would you recommend, right? How would you approach this? And that happens all the time in a lot of different careers, but especially in sales, we are often on our own and we need to pivot quickly. So we need those critical thinking skills, because skipping ahead a little bit, but what I'm looking for as a leader is someone who is willing to do the research effectively, identifies a problem, and offers a solution. We are very busy, especially at the VP level, at the senior executive level. So when people come to us, what we're looking for is, great, you've identified an issue. Rather than just say, hey, this is a problem, offer a solution. That's what we're looking for. And that's what WGU should be providing to you. And I know that does, because I've gone through it. The ability to ask better questions, the curiosity, the ability to explain things and ideas succinctly. And the most important thing, I think, above all, that we do in many classes is, I'm going to point back to that group project. It's listening. A lot of people are waiting. They look like they're listening, but they're just waiting to speak. If you truly listen, then that's where the gold comes from. When I get on a phone call with customers, or when I use this as an SDR, I wouldn't say, hello, my name's Wendy Hardin. I'm from this company. We do this, da 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 da. I would find a problem that was common in that industry. And I would say, you know what? I hear that XYZ is often an issue for customers or businesses like you. Does that resonate? Does that, where are you having issues? Guess what? The thing that people love to do the most is to talk about themselves. And if you give them space to do that, a plethora of knowledge will be provided to you. So going back to that SDR experience, I employed all of the skills that I attained at WGU to do more, to take a step ahead of the game and not just look at my SDR peers and just regurgitate that line over and over. I took my experience and my knowledge, the research, the critical thinking, etc., and developed my own plan of this isn't working. What they told me wasn't working. The script, they'll give you a script. It wasn't working. So that's when I said, okay, I know how to research. Maybe I'll look at the person I'm calling. I will look at the company. Maybe there's something that when I give them a call and it's a cold call, and you probably have all experienced a cold call in your time, whether it's selling dishwashers or I don't know, health insurance, you name it, right? And you're like, it's a cold call. But if they knew something about you, if they knew that you liked, well, like me, there's March Madness is going on. If they knew I went to LinkedIn and I looked at their profile and I did my research, my homework. Hey, I see that you're from Kentucky. What do you think? What are their chances in March Madness? Or, hey, I saw in an article recently that your business was just a top 10, best workplaces in your area. That's wonderful. Can you tell me about that? Right? And it's not just about what you have to sell. It's what can you bring to the table, right? It's not leading with that verbatim elevator pitch. To me, that's gone and dead. You still have to bring it out sometimes, but it's more about work, again, about the people and the people skills that you have. So in sales, we're not looking for an individual who knows the most about business philosophy or all about the industry that you want to sell in. Now, the majority of businesses are going to put requires college degree as a requirement because it demonstrates you've survived tough classes. We didn't all get good grades and perfect A's in all classes, but I certainly didn't. You have failed at one time or another. That's what happens in college, right? You try new things, you put yourself on a ledge and you fail, and that's okay because that's what we're looking for, that you've failed and you've gotten back up in some area and you didn't give up and you persevered. It's that tenacity is what it takes to be good in sales. And what I know from WGU graduates, because again, I am one, you want to provide a better life for your family. You're working and you're going to school. You have ambition. You keep going and you get that diploma because let me tell you something, character and work ethic are one of the things that I look for the most in candidates. And again, I know I'm jumping ahead, but it's a passionate topic of mine because I'm constantly looking and searching for people that have those qualities. And it's not as easy as you think in the market today. So WGU gave me a fantastic education. It gave me the ability to think on my own, to be an individual, but also with the humility of understanding that there were things that I still needed to work on. And so with that, I did my undergrad, I got my master's, I took that diploma, and then I rose and I was that SDR. And because I decided to use those skills from WGU to think outside the box, to test the status quo, I only stayed in SDR for 6 months. And then immediately I was an open position for an account executive came up and I jumped at it. And that's another thing, by the way, don't be afraid to take that chance. If you're like, oh, I'm not ready yet. No, go for it. Because again, it's that confidence, but it's also take that step. If you fail at it, you'll learn from it. You'll get better. You'll understand where you need to improve so that the next time around, you're going to succeed. So that kind of leads into how to be successful in sales. Another thing I want to point out, because I just find it funny, is that when I was an SDR, we had a phone book. You know why I have my LinkedIn that I'm going to be providing you on the slide deck? It's Wendy Hardin for a reason. I was around when it just came out. Okay. So absolutely, WGU, get that degree, because again, a lot of employers are looking for it. And it's not about you're the best biologist or you're the best at this or you're best at that. It's really to show that you know hard work, you know dedication, you can fall down and you can pick yourself right back up. And that diploma is the blood, sweat, and tears that you've earned with that dedication. So let me tell you a secret. If you're interviewing with a competent leader, what we really look for is that you're curious and coachable. You can demonstrate, like I said, a strong work ethic, and you're professional and respectful of yourself and others. Culture is a big thing in sales business because we want that unity, that sense of comfort, like I was talking about, that I failed to do in that initial project. We want you to be a warden of your own time. Again, in sales, a lot of time you're remote, you're not in office anymore. And so I need to be confident that you will be able to manage your time effectively, because I don't know if any of you've heard of the term micromanager, right? That's someone that it kind of gives you tasks and you have certain expectations, but they're kind of breathing down your neck and they're checking on you all the time. I hire adults to do a job, and I expect them to get it done within the 8-hour time frame that's expected every day. So you have to be a warden of your own time. Another reason, by the way, that we do look for college graduates, because you have to have that skill in order to get that diploma. And also, you have to hold yourself and others accountable. One thing that I despise hearing is, I couldn't get this done because of XYZ. And typically that XYZ is a layer of excuses. Now, if you give me a reason of, hey, Wendy, I didn't get this done. I plan on doing it during this time period tomorrow. And these are the reasons why I did not get it done. As in, I had 3 meetings run over. I had a customer call back. Great. But I need to be confident that you can use your time effectively and wisely. So now, kind of that I've gone, let me get my slides back up here. I'm working multiple screens. There we go. So there we go. Can you see my screen again? Yes. Okay. All right. So really, how to achieve success in sales. Some things to consider is being a continuous learner. Like I said, if you get a position as an SDR, or maybe you start off as a small business, account executive or any kind of executive, to be successful is, one, always be yourself. That is something that seems kind of counterintuitive to most people, that I see enter in sales for the first time because they want to not make a mistake. But like I said, failure is a good thing because you learn from it. What I have done to succeed, I'll give you a little bit of a cheat code. One, start listening to relevant podcasts, start learning AI. And I say that because it's not going away, but most people are asking me, Wendy, is sales okay? Is there a career there? Yes, I'll tell you why. Because computers cannot provide empathy and they cannot provide a consultative approach. And it goes back to that listening, those skills of listening. To succeed at sales, most people think it's this all the time, but it's not. It's this. Because customers want to feel heard. And how many times do you, go to a business, if you go to a car dealership, and that's something that most people do, if you have someone trying to sell you a car and they're only talking about the features and they say, oh yeah, we have this Honda Pilot and it has this much horsepower and it has got the backup camera and it's got this, and this. That's great. But what about if I had a different salesperson and they said, great, welcome in today. Why are you looking? What kind of vehicle do you like? Do you have kids? Do you have pets? So what that's doing is you're just asking questions and then you're listening. And then if they say, hey, I've got a pet, what kind of pet? And what you're doing is you're gathering information, and that's called consultative selling, by the way. You're listening so that you can then connect where their pains are or where their potential pains are or potential advantages to your solution, your product, etc., to then point them in the right direction. So in that scenario, it would be very much I'm going to use me because I have a dog and he's giant, he's 100 pounds. So yes, I have a German Shepherd, he's large, he's got 100 pounds. Okay, well, do you take him to the vet often? How do you do that? Oh, well, I take him, and right now I've got a small car, and it would be great if I had more room for him to lay around in, because I travel a lot, and I go see my daughter, and it's 4 hours away. Oh, wow. Well, we have the perfect solution for you. I have several vehicles in mind. There's this one that has full back seats, and also it has a place to put your dog bowl right here. That's the difference, if you could tell. To be successful, there are a lot of counterintuitive things in sales. And that is listening. And something that AI can't do is empathy. People actually buy off of emotion and then justify it with logic. And I don't think that's going away anytime soon. So those are two items and just that seem, I think, counterintuitive to most people just starting out in sales. But also, I think that to be successful in sales, like I said, be yourself, get a mentor. That's how you can kind of escalate your trajectory quickly. I'll tell you now that my career is based off of everybody that I've ever worked with. I learn from their failures and I learn from their successes. And I listen. Again, you listen internally and you listen externally to your customers. So you get together, you find a senior individual, whether it's another account executive, or if you're just starting out in that SDR level, a senior SDR, and you say, you know what, I really appreciate how you would manage calls, you book your calendar, the list goes on and on. I would love to get some tips and tricks from you. Can I join you and shadow you on a few calls? And most of the time they're going to say, yeah, absolutely. Because in turn, the benefit to them is that they're gaining experience kind of mentoring or coaching that they can put on their resume. So take the information, always have your ears open, but shadow those individuals, because you're going to pick up things that they say that work, and you're also going to see things that don't work that you're like, oh no, I'll stay away from that. And that's how you can really accelerate your sales acumen as a professional. But not only that, I would get a more senior mentor and ask, can I get your advice on some career development items? But as you learn these things, don't ever be a copy of someone else, because it's not going to feel natural and you're going to trip up on your words more. You always want to be yourself. Like, if you met me, I'm a little bit more of a abnormal leader, I would like to say, because I'm not going to use big words just to use big words. I'm forever myself. I add in jokes. I add in personal things about myself whenever I speak, obviously. There's an essence that every individual has. And what I've learned in my career and coaching numerous individuals is that they always do best when they're just themselves. Because what do people have? They have what's called a radar of, I'll keep it professional. So a radar of nonsense, right? And we can all smell that. We can tell when people are being fake. And that's when you run into that, oh, sales is like used car sales persona. It's not. And it comes across that way, it comes across fake when you're trying to regurgitate. Be yourself. All right, I want to be aware of time here. It's 33 after, so I'll move on to the next thing. I told you I could talk. So when we're talking about what I'm looking for in relation to candidate screening, here's a few things that I want to really dive into this part, because with AI, it's making it more difficult for leaders like myself to find candidates just through that resume mechanism, because they put it through ChatGPT and everybody's looks the same. So I want to talk a little bit about how that's evolving and what you can do. One, always research the interviewer and the company, just like you would in sales for your customers. Do it for the research, do it for the company. Know the business. Reach out directly to the recruiter and secure an internal reference. And what I mean by that is that on LinkedIn, they might have here's the recruiter's name, reach out to them directly. Because another thing about sales is we want you to have that confidence. We want you to be bold. Now, again, professional, don't say dude. Hey, dude. Hey, man. I say that because my daughter mentions that she was so surprised that her fellow students would call her professors dude and dudemeister and just in a sundry of names. No, don't do that. Just reach out directly to the recruiter, because that's a sales type of trait, right? Be bold. Another thing that you can do is a lot of companies have an actual referral program. They get money if they hire you. So reach out to, if it's for an account executive, reach out to a fellow account executive on that team or in the company. They might be open to chat, to not only just get the referral and say, hey, I'm really interested in your company. I'd love to chat, have a coffee chat with you, maybe learn about it. I see you have an open role, and maybe if it makes sense, you could refer me and you could get that company bonus. I've known several account executives to get hired that way. The big one, the resume, because of AI, like I said, you can put in a job description, and ChatGPT or Claude or whatever you use for AI will spit out a perfect resume with all those key action words. But to remember how I said that people know when things are fake, they can smell things out that are nonsense. For a seasoned professional, that is especially true with resumes. So I'm going to know by looking at it that it was generated by AI because it would be too perfect. Also, it would generally not include numbers. And in sales, if all of you aren't aware, obviously every year you have a sales quota to achieve. And even if you're not in sales, I'm going to be looking for a metric. It could be something that demonstrates a capability. It could be, we did a project to XYZ. We came back and were able to create this much efficiency or save this much time or whatever. It doesn't have to be specifically sales related, but the way that the resume trend is going is that it's going to be more skill focused. We want to know about your skills. And then we want to understand any metric that you can provide tied to that to demonstrate the success. Okay. LinkedIn must match. That's another thing. I look at a resume. I looked at LinkedIn. You don't know how many resumes of who I thought might be good candidates because of their length of experience. It didn't match. It's an easy way to understand the truth telling, right? If it doesn't match, it immediately goes in the trash. It tells a story, and how to verify that story is through LinkedIn. Attention to detail, please. Spelling, punctuation, grammar. In sales, you have to be very good at attention to detail because you're providing quotes of pricing, and you need to make sure always the math works. And then also, in a more advanced way, you're also kind of leading the charge. You don't do contracts, but you do lead the charge and quarterback, right? The process of getting the contract done with your, in combination with your attorney. So please, attention to detail. That's where you can draft up a resume, have your friends look at it, or my mom was an English teacher, so that was really easy. I still have to do like correct grammar and punctuations in my texts, believe it or not, in full sentences. But running through ChatGPT too, to make sure that everything's good to go from a grammar perspective. Use your resume as a marketing tool, not a biography. So if you've been in a career for 20 years, just put the most relevant, right? Because I will say that, and I know that WGU has students of all ages and backgrounds. I came back to it a little bit older, so you don't want a super long list. Because I've been doing this for so long, my resume doesn't have a lot of jobs that I used to have. So make it relevant to the position and just provide. Now, don't make it sparse and only have 2 jobs on there, maybe, unless that's what you have, but make it relevant and not a biography. Like, I don't care if you take spinning or do yoga or, some of your hobbies. I want to know and focus on everything should be put on there as a tool to help you get the job, not a biography on yourself. A professional social media presence, yes, we are looking into that. So please make sure that certain things are in private. Just make sure there's nothing that could get you into trouble that way as well. Demonstrate a focus on a continued growth to that AI. And what I mean by that is just know how to use AI. I use it every day, and it's not going to, again, like I said, it doesn't have empathy. I don't know whether it will, but it's not probably soon. Get used to using it because it drives efficiencies. So if I draft an email very quickly and over time, like we have our own instance of ChatGPT, it learns my personality. So if I say, I draft an email and I pop it in there, it starts to learn my tone and my manner of speaking. And so what could have just taken me 10 or 15 minutes to draft in an email, I can plop right in and it spits right back out. So it saved me 10 minutes. And so that's what we're looking for. And that's what you should educate yourself on, is just on how to use the prompts effectively. So as that goes in your career, whether it's sales or anything else, figure out how to incorporate it in your job, and speak to it in your interview, because that will be impressive. Ask thoughtful questions, not generic. And what I mean by that is when you're interviewing, again, I'll just say in sales or any other career, you want it to be specific to that role, specific to that business. Asking just, well, what's your quota? What are your benefits? Those are generic questions that probably any candidate would ask. I'm talking about, I looked at the company. I say, oh, hey, they actually just acquired a business, or they acquired a new product that they're going to be rolling out soon. You can ask, hi, I just saw that you are actually acquiring this product. Is that something that you're merging into the rest of your platform? Or what is your go-to-market strategy on that? Or is that something that I will be able to sell in the future? How do you anticipate your current customers buying into that, right? There's so many different things. But again, that goes back to researching the business and then setting yourself apart with those thoughtful questions. And be interested and ask a question that you truly do want to know more about. Because again, that goes back to being yourself. Be professional, respectful. I think we've already covered that. I'll also say humble. So when I'm interviewing, it's great to talk. Be sure not to talk too much, but also be professional and respectful. And what I mean by that is there is such a thing as overconfident, okay? I always ask, one of my questions is about, can you share a deal or a situation where you thought you were prepared, but something didn't go as planned? What was that failure, and how did it impact your process or your sales or whatever in the future? You'd be surprised how many people say, none. I've never failed. I've never taken a misstep. That's not authentic, because we all know that we do and that we have, and that's okay. And actually, I'm looking for somebody to say that they have failed even more than once, right? Because that's the truth. And what you're trying to do in any candidate screening is to build credibility. So if your LinkedIn doesn't match, you don't have any metrics, you're not professional, you're too full of yourself, then that's not credible, right? You're not presenting yourself as that authentic self. And then another thing in sales, or I think probably any other job would also appreciate this, is a 30, 60, 90-day plan. And if you haven't heard about what that is basically, what are you going to come in and do your first 30 days, your 60 days, and your 90 days. So as an example, this would be in sales. I would look for the first 30 days are typically, well, I'm going to be training, I'm going to complete my onboarding, I'm going to start reaching out to the team members that are my direct team to get to know them and start learning. I'm going to ask you for additional resources, whether that be books or podcasts or anything that you would recommend to get up to speed quickly. I'm going to start looking at my territory and determining, what kind of customers or what's our ICP. ICP means ideal customer profile, the targets that your company goes after. And then 60-90. I would research that before interview. If you're not familiar with the term or how to create one, this is a great way to stand out. And I would hold it until you actually get an interview and have that ready to present and say, hey, I actually created a 30, 60, 90-day plan. Do you want me to share that, a little bit of that with you? And be prepared to PDF and send that out right after the interview. And always follow up with a thank you. All right, I think that's all I had. And oh, yay, I was aiming for 15 minutes for questions. I did a good job.
Perfect. That was some really great information. Definitely a couple of key points that I really thought were awesome about making sure your LinkedIn matches your resume. A lot of people don't think to go back and double check that, and it really is telling when your very visual or, public profile doesn't reflect what's on your resume. So I think that's some great feedback. We do have a few questions that came through in the chat while you were speaking, so I'll go ahead
Amazing.
and start with our first one there. So from Tanner, he asked if you could elaborate on being yourself more. Is this pertaining to keeping and perfecting our own selling style, or is this more about expressing yourself with clients?
So both. Okay. Um, so with clients, they again, everyone has that meter of being authentic. They can tell whether you're being authentic or not. For customers, you're going to find some customers that you're not going to connect with, and that's okay. But for the most part, just being yourself and implementing the skills that you've learned over the years is going to make that easier and easier. Uh, I'm sorry, can you read that question back to me again?
Yes, so he said, can you elaborate on being yourself more? Is this pertaining to keeping and perfecting our own selling style, or is it more about expressing yourself with clients?
Yeah. So in terms of that continuous growth, yes, also, right? So with customers, being authentic because they can tell when you're not. And when you provide that too salesy of a pitch, then you're going to lose them because they are trusting you. A lot of times when customers buy something and it does not go well, their position could be on the hook. Okay. It's on the line. So people are adverse to change. So in especially like in software, a lot of these companies will have the same platform for years, no matter what kind of domain that they're using it for, whether it's compliance or accounting or legal or IT tickets or anything like that, right? A shift and change are hard. Like who likes to learn new systems, right? When they're trying to do their job, it's very challenging. So you need to be yourself to gain that immediate trust. And the trust and understanding and that empathy is what's going to open them up more and more because they are basically they're betting on you. They're betting on your company. They're betting on a certain amount of risk for that change. Is it going to go well? And they're also relying on you to show them, like, to be that guardrail of when they ask you for something, being honest on whether you can actually do it or not. And just because you can't do something for a customer doesn't mean you're going to lose the deal. What they really love is when you tell them that you can't do it, because then they know that they can trust you. So be yourself, but really, truly, in the back end, want to actually solve that customer's problem because they're really going to bat for you. And then on the other side, for your kind of own personal growth, yes, you need to be yourself. I was actually training someone today, and he would take the script or take the manager who's his direct report, or the the manager who's under me was providing the guidance. I did it today to do a skip level, and he was trying to take that person, we'll call him Sam, my manager Sam, uh, to he was regurgitating Sam style, all right, and it was coming across as robotic, and it didn't flow, right? We all have a natural cadence to our voice and certain quirks and facial expressions, and it just came off like he was reciting a script, right? Um, and so what I recommend is that when you gain this knowledge, you're going to have that innate feeling to just copy and repeat and mimic. But how you get over that is videotape yourself, do it in the mirror. I still record myself all the time when I have a big presentation, whether it's to the board or whether it's at a conference. And that's how you kind of ease into taking those lessons that you've learned and those notes that you've compiled, and then enacting them into your own personality. I would also say you can find a buddy at work and do back and forth and help one another. They can ask questions like a customer, kind of like role playing. Role playing also helps that a lot, because you need to take the knowledge that you have and you continue to over the years and incorporate it so that it does become like immediate nature for yourself, right? There's no thinking, it's just a reaction, and it's your reaction. I hope that clarified.
That was great. I definitely agree. We typically won't buy something from somebody that we don't feel like we can trust. So, pretty good feedback there. Our next question is from Kimberly Garcia. She's asked, what about transitioning from marketing to sales? Is that possible without direct sales experience?
Absolutely. We see it all the time. I've seen salespeople go to marketing. I've seen marketing go to sales, professional services, sales engineers, account managers. We all do the magic move, right? Because sometimes you might get into a position and you learn from being a good cross-departmental colleague, which I do recommend as part of that continuing education, is get to know people in other realms of the business and what their challenges are and what their day-to-day is like. Empathy also helps internally. And they also, if you build those relationships and you need extra help, they're always willing to lend an extra hand. But in terms of most companies do have some sort of career development available. Ours does. And so we try to have quarterly conversations in relation to, okay, what are your goals? Are you interested in a different position? If you are, let's explore that and why you like it. Maybe you can go and shadow someone. So if you're in marketing and you have a current position in marketing organization, I would see, reach out to HR and see what the potential programs are at your business. But most companies do encourage that, especially with top talent, because they want to retain you. It's hard to find good people. And they can be in marketing or any position, as long as you have the right work ethic. I think almost anybody can be good at selling. It's hard work. Just to be clear, it's hard work. It's not easy. But if you're willing to go for it and implement some of the things that the high level things that I've said, absolutely you can be successful.
Perfect. Our next question, we do have two more questions and we'll probably wrap up from there. Let me see. Another question from Tanner. What if I did sales over 10 years ago and it has been a while since I have had a sales position? Example, I'm considering changing from being a business analyst to a SaaS salesperson.
Yeah. Again, I don't think you're ever too old to do anything. I'm learning Spanish right now. I've done aerial silks. I'm learning how to throw knives. Just a little bit more interesting. Again, be yourself. You're never too old to do that. So I would say kind of take a look at your work history and probably be a little bit inventive in terms of resume, right? Because here's another secret. You don't necessarily, if you have skills, have a skills section, take an out of the box way of thinking, and have a skills section, and then put those demonstrated metrics along with it, right? If you had participated in sales 10 years ago and say you had a quota and you achieved that quota, or you achieved 75% of that quota, It's okay, put that on there. That's a skill that you have. So just because it was 10 years ago doesn't mean that you can't do it again, right? It's just the technology that's changed. I don't think that the discipline of sales has really changed much. It's just implementing those key personal and problem solving skills, not curiosity and that skill of listening, to the technology that we have today. But just be very
Absolutely.
because I will say that people can be ageist. I certainly am not. I think the best team is a very diverse team. Um, so just be careful in how you present that information. And that's why I said probably in a skill section.
Perfect. I absolutely agree. Just kind of transitioning how you were still using your sales skills in your other role over the last 10 years. So a little creativity. And
Exactly.
I also think we're going to have to bring you back for a session on knife throwing. That could definitely be interesting.
I like
um,
odd things.
our last question here is from Arnina, and I apologize if I'm saying your name wrong there, but she asked, do we have any recommendations on sales certifications for someone who wants to learn more about consultative selling?
I'm sorry, the internet cut out for me for a second.
Sorry. Do you have any recommendations on sales certification for someone who wants to learn more about consultative selling?
I would say there's a lot of individuals out there claiming to have certificates or programs for sales. I think that it's a waste of money. Maybe that's going to be a hot take. I think they take money. I think the best way of getting into it is getting hired into it, whether that's in that introductory level, which being an SDR or BDR is brutal. I'm not going to sugarcoat that. But what it does is prepares you for the grind that sales is. Like I said, it's tons of calling, tons of emails, tons of rejection, but you have to get up every single day and say, put that smile on your face and get to it. And you learn, in my opinion, best by doing and being around the people that are successful doing it. Most of the people that you're going to see, whether it's on LinkedIn or YouTube or anything, they might have helpful tips, but you're going to learn best by being in the mix. There is no easy key to success. Like you can be successful in sales and in, 10 business days, I'll make you a $600,000, those claims. No. Because a lot of things that you do in sales are counterintuitive. I kind of like, for example, I tell my sales team all the time, sales is like dating, right? And because most people want to just give customers what they want. They want to give them their time. They want to jump on a phone call whenever the customer snaps their finger. No, actually, you want to set proper boundaries because what do people love? People love what they can't have. And if they know that you're busy, even if you're not busy and you say, hey, I can't take that call, I'm busy until next Wednesday at 2. Now make it a reasonable time frame, but then it shows that there are other people that are interested in your product. You're so busy and people love that. It's just like the person that you want that you can't have when you're dating. That's how you need to approach it. And I apologize if you'll give me 1 second and then share my screen. I did forget to talk over the positions that we're going to have.
Sure thing.
Just real quick, I won't make the from this current slide. So, like I said, Zenwork is a SaaS company that helps businesses manage tax reporting and compliance. I didn't get to talk about the W-2Gs, but we're working with several casinos, which is super fun because W-2Gs are those forms that if you win over a certain threshold of earnings, you got to report those earnings to the IRS. So we're working with multiple casinos on the Strip, as well as some in Florida and tribal casinos. So I find that very interesting and very cool. We work with all kinds of organizations and sizes from, small 500 employee companies all the way up to Fortune 500. Here's some upcoming jobs. Mid-market account executive, enterprise, account manager. Account manager is where you deal with current customers and try to grow them. And then a sales engineer position that's already been posted. Benefits do include base salary plus commission, 401k, comprehensive health coverage, and PTO. And there are other things, like I said, career development, which I am huge on, and also internal advancement. So when you are also interviewing with companies, ask them about the career development and whether they advance within. Because if you want to move from an SDR to an AE or an AE to a more senior AE, that's important, and you should ask them the percentage of how many of those positions go on to the more senior positions. Just a little tip there.
Perfect. And I will be sending out an email again to everybody that attended with a copy of our recording, but I'll also include the link to the Zenwork career page, so you're able to go in and look at all their available positions. We definitely, again, want to thank you so much for your time today, Wendy. You really provided us with some great information and some great insight. And I think this was a great session. So I really appreciate you taking the time to talk to everybody today.
Absolutely. Feel free to connect with me on LinkedIn if you want to message, or if you want a little bit of advice. I can't provide it to everyone, but I will try. I do believe in paying it forward, and I want to give back to my WGU community because WGU has provided me with so much.
Perfect. Well, thank you again. I will be sending out emails later today just to thank everybody for attending, and with the career page and a copy of our recording, as well as our survey for your feedback on our session. So if anybody could take the time to complete our survey, we definitely appreciate it. And we will go ahead and let you go for today, Wendy. I know we took a little extra of your day, but we appreciate it again.
Well, thank you. Best of luck to everyone. I know that you can all be successful. Thank you so much.